Star Wars is pretty great, isn't it? I know you were probably expecting me to talk about Star Trek or something, but you know what? I'm also a fan of Star Wars as well. In fact, why shouldn't people like both? They're both great franchises in the sci-fi genre, but I digress. While the movies are a necessary part of a conversation about Star Wars, after all, we wouldn't have the franchise without the movies, any Star Wars fan would be remiss to ignore a big part of the Star Wars franchise, the video games. In addition to the books and comics, Star Wars video games expanded the Star Wars universe beyond the movies and made extra content available to anyone hungry for more Star Wars content. The games are a staple in both the Star Wars and video game fan bases for being consistently good both as additional Star Wars content and as video games, though there are some exceptions. Now we can look into plot details or characters that may have gotten overlooked in the movies. Like, for example, Rogue Squadron. When the game Star Wars Rogue Squadron was released, it was well received, becoming both a classic N64 game and a classic Star Wars game. So it's no surprise that it has both sequels and a spin-off. But where a lot of sequels fall flat, as in many forms of media, Rogue Leader, or Rogue Squadron 2, for the Nintendo GameCube is on par or even better than its predecessor. Where the original Rogue Squadron followed Luke Skywalker and his time as a rogue, Rogue Leader follows his friend and fellow rogue, Wedge Antilles. Though Wedge has little screen time in the movies and was even recast after one scene, he became a fan favorite and had his character expanded in books, comics, and video games. If a sequel to Rogue Squadron was going to follow anyone, Wedge is the perfect choice. And the cherry on top is that this game features the voice of Dennis Lawson as Wedge, who plays him in the movies. Well, except for that one scene.
That's impossible, even for a computer.
But let's cut the chatter and talk about the much-beloved game, Star Wars Rogue Leader. Now you may be asking yourself, why am I reviewing the second game in this series and not the first? And to that I say, this is Star Wars. Do you really think we're going to be starting with the beginning? The menu opens with various clips from the original Star Wars trilogy and two simple choices, Start and Options. Now that's what I'm talking about. Short, sweet, and to the point. Sure, you can change around some settings to make the gameplay a little easier for you. Personally, I like turning off the enemy camera. But you can just jump right into gameplay without changing anything. The defaults are pretty good. You can also look at some special features that you unlock as you play through the game, including a behind-the-scenes documentary, which is kinda interesting and shows the developers at work and gives some background information. But you know what? Right now, I want to press start and play the game. You can select or create your game, which keeps track of your progress and keeps your younger siblings from messing up your records. You get 3 letters to assign to your game. Since Waz was already taken by my first game, I'm going with Jan, the first 3 letters of my name, as well as the name of a great expanded universe character who is also a great pilot. Could there be a better name for this game?
So much for the Blue Milk Run.
Once you select your game, you will see the Mission Select screen, based off the briefing room in Return of the Jedi? I think? Either way, it looks cool. The main missions become available to you as you complete them. You don't necessarily need a medal in a mission to advance to the next main mission, but secret missions have certain medal and point requirements to unlock, so you're encouraged to replay missions and earn higher medals and more points to unlock them. There are 10 main missions and 5 secret missions in this game. Selecting a mission will show you the ships available for that mission. During the initial playthrough of a mission, you're required to use a particular ship, but once you clear it, you have your choice of ship in most missions. You can even unlock special ships by meeting certain criteria. The only one I was able to unlock was the Millennium Falcon, which is unlocked by getting bronze medals in every main mission. Once you select a mission, you're taken to the hangar where you can run around and select a ship. Of course, that just means I get to mess around. Look at me go! Whee!
You're Starfleet officers! Now start acting like it!
Okay, I'm done. Select a ship and take off in a pretty sweet cutscene to start the mission. Now, I know you want to jump right into the first mission, but first, the tutorial. Admittedly, I played through this game without going through the tutorial and figuring out as I went, as well as looking some stuff up. But don't be me! Do the tutorial and get a grip on the controls. As Luke, you get 20 minutes in essentially a sandbox mode where you can get used to the controls, find different points on the map, get some target practice in, and participate in races with Wedge and Luke's friend Biggs. Which doesn't fall quite into the timeline of the movies since Luke met Wedge at the Death Star briefing and Biggs died during the run. This is probably a good time to go over the controls. Going off my memory of the original Rogue Squadron game, I would say these controls are an improvement over the N64 controls. They're solid controls. The only gripe I have is that you have to hold the Y button down to keep the targeting computer up, but I don't really use it all that much anyway because it lowers the targeting computer efficiency stat. Alright, enough of the tutorial. Mission 1, Death Star Attack. I should point out that the first couple of missions you play as Luke with Wedge as your wingman. This is actually a really good way to start the game since it's Luke's first Rogue Squadron mission and the objectives are straightforward and easy. Take out some deflection towers, take out some TIE fighters, and make the run to blow up the Death Star. It also uses a nice sampling of the skills you need for the rest of the game, like how far you should be to fire on an object, experience with fighting TIEs, and steady control over your ship. When it comes to this mission, the mission plays out very closely to the movie. Wedge and Biggs hold off the TIEs until Wedge is hit and Biggs is shot down, and then you have to deal with the TIEs on your own as well as avoiding obstacles and turrets. Vader eventually joins the party, but for some reason can't be shot down? Well, I guess it would have been a pretty short trilogy otherwise. Han comes to the rescue, you hear Ben Kenobi's voice, and... mission accomplished. Alright, the Empire knows we're here. Time to move the rebel base from Yavin 4 to Hoth in Ison Corridor Ambush. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The mission is an escort mission where you have to protect the convoy, but it also introduces the targeting computer and changing out ships, both of which will come in handy for later missions. Most of the mission is fighting off TIEs, but partway through, you need to switch to an A-Wing. Each ship has its pros and cons, but I'm not the biggest fan of A-Wings. Sure, they're faster and have the same firepower as an X-Wing, but they're also very brittle. But despite that, it's not difficult for a second mission. For the third mission, we're in The Empire Strikes Back with the Battle of Hoth. In this mission, you fly speeders, which aren't available in every mission. They're sufficient enough to defend the base from the AT-STs until...
Hobby, I've been hit!
Don't worry, Luke survives, but you play as Wedge for the rest of the game. Which makes sense since Luke goes to Dagobah to train with Yoda after Hoth. Although that would become a level in the next Rogue Squadron game, Star Wars Rebel Strike. As Wedge, you have to take down walkers with tow cables. I don't know why Star Wars flight simulators insist on having tow cable sections, but they're one of the worst parts of this genre. Granted, I've made my peace with them and even got good at them, but it's still annoying. For one thing, you have to get close enough for the tow cable to attach, and then you have to make your way around the walker 3 times without crashing before it falls over. Nevertheless, it's really satisfying and rewarding when that walker goes down. Oh, I have to do that 3 more times. Alright. Alright, now that that's taken care of, it's just defending the departing rebels from TIEs and TIE bombers. Prisons of the Maw. What a strange, annoying little mission. It's essentially a prison break mission, and it's also not my favorite mission in this game. The only thing that I like about this mission is this moment.
Are you sure we'll find anything in this rock pile? Cut the chatter.
You just know Wedge was waiting since the Death Star run to say that.
Look at the size of that thing. Cut the chatter, Red 2.
The first part of the mission starts with just flying. It's a regular Sunday fly, if you will. Until a bunch of TIEs come in. I found it incredibly difficult to aim at any of them, so I just headed for the waypoint and avoided TIE fire until I reached these force field projectors. I couldn't even aim at them regularly. I had to fire at them from this weird, unnatural angle, but at the same time, you take out 3 of them and you're going to the next part of the mission. Unfortunately, the next part of the mission is the more annoying part. Most of this part is taking out guard turrets around the prison by dropping bombs with your Y-Wings. The problem is, I'm not very good at that. You're constantly being shot at while hearing,
Rogue Squadron! We need help!
Yeah, I know! Well, once you take out the turrets, communications relays, and hold off the Imperial forces until the prisoners escape, this mission comes to an end, and I couldn't be happier. Of course, the next mission isn't without its challenges, but at least I found this one satisfying. In Razor Rendezvous, you have to fly a B-Wing. What an odd little ship. I honestly prefer taking an X-Wing on subsequent playthroughs myself, but that's just me. For this mission, you have to protect a medical frigate along with taking out one Star Destroyer. My question is, why do the rebels insist on bringing an unarmed medical frigate along? I mean, throw a couple of defensive turrets on that thing, something! With the turrets on the Star Destroyer all gunning for you, I suggest finishing this mission as quickly as possible. Take out the 3 shields and hit the command deck. It's a tall order, but it's still very satisfying. And you know what? That's what this game does well. Sure, tow cabling the walkers is a pain and taking out a Star Destroyer is tough, but doing both leaves you feeling like you accomplished something. And not every game does that. Oh, did you think you saw the last of that Star Destroyer? No, there's data on that ship and you need to provide cover for the ground troops to retrieve it. Actually, I really like this mission. Sure, the first part is an escort mission, but it has the right number of ties, not overwhelming, and sometimes I even go ahead and take out more. And sure, you have to take out 3 walkers, in water mind you, so there's even less room for error than on Hoth, but there's something satisfying seeing the walkers make a splash.
That still only counts as one!
And yeah, you have these weird ATSTs? ATPTs, coming out of the water like Principal Skinner.
God.
But this is one of the few times I like using a Y-Wing even when I don't have to. Speaking of which, you get the option to switch craft a couple of times in this mission. X-Wing, or presumably whatever ship you chose at the beginning, Speeder, and Y-Wing. The Y-Wing comes in handy when breaching the hull of the Star Destroyer and is the main reason for its presence in this mission. But I found it useful for dealing with the ATPTs. Other than making sure the ground troops are safe, which isn't too hard, this is a pretty fun mission. Of course, not all fun lasts forever. Next is the Imperial Academy Heist, or Star Wars Grand Theft Shuttlecraft. What I can appreciate is that there is a daytime and a nighttime version of this level, depending on what time of day you're playing. But both versions pretty much play out the same way. You sneak into an Imperial Academy and run off with a shuttle.
By the way, would you mind awfully if I borrowed your shiny little chopper? Absolutely not. It's no problem, pal. Well, that's very kind of you.
I found sneaking in easier in the daytime version because you can just disable the sensors rather than meticulously avoiding them in the nighttime version, where I barely fly low enough amid the bumpy terrain.
Wedge, we gotta keep low. You're flying too close to their sensors.
But this is like every stealth mission, isn't it? You sneak around until, screw it! Honestly, if you can make it to the second part and steal the shuttle, you're good to go. Back in the A-Wing again, it's time to get some Tabana gas from Bespin. First, it's escorting some transports, taking out some ties, nothing fancy. I found taking out these gunner platforms to be a major help. How I'm not getting tangled up in that balloon is a mystery, though. Then you head to Cloud City, and that's where it gets tricky. See, you have to destroy these generators, but to do that involves getting into the trenches of Cloud City. And it's a pain in the ass.
How rude.
Sure, the map tells you where they are, but I almost always end up taking a wrong turn, missing the generator and or crashing. But when I do find a generator, I'm usually too close to get it in one sweep, so I end up using my missiles for that quick hit. But finally, we're getting towards the end of the game. The last 2 missions are the Battle of Endor and Strike at the Core, both from Return of the Jedi. If you thought the first Death Star was easy, buckle up. These are both tough missions. The game lines up pretty nicely with the Battle of Endor shown in the movie. You can tell a lot of love went into these last couple of levels. Even the famous
It's a trap!
makes an appearance. And like in the movie, TIEs swarm the, yet again, unarmed medical frigate. Come on, even in Star Trek medical staff get phasers.
So, where can someone practice with his phase around here?
Keep the TIEs and bombers off the medical frigate and... Now, remember how tough it was to take out just the one Star Destroyer in Razor Rendezvous? Well, here, you have to take out 2. Luckily, not every gun is gunning for you, so you can take out the shield generators with little trouble. It's hitting the command deck that takes a little skill, and while you can always... I prefer sending a couple missiles and laser fire their way. Do that twice, and it's time to hit the core. Now, the last mission is a bit nerve-wracking. If you can survive the initial trip to the exhaust port, keeping the TIEs off Lando's back, which is not an easy feat, by the way, then it's every flight simulator's worst nightmare. Flying down a narrow corridor, avoiding hitting anything, and continuing to keep the TIEs off Lando.
Just wanted to make sure everyone was awake.
This is a slight departure from the movie. Rather than some fighters trailing off into another corridor, this is one long straight line, probably to avoid confusion. Also, don't even think about crashing, because if you do, you have to start this run all over again. Don't ask me how I know. Eventually, you reach the core, blow the North Tower, like Lando says, and... well, it looks like we overstayed our welcome. Time to leave. Now, all you have to do is make it out alive. Don't even think about getting engulfed by the flames, because even if you have lives left, your run is over altogether. You gotta start over. But make it out, and congratulations! You beat the game! You can additionally play the last 2 missions in the Millennium Falcon once you unlock it, but don't. I know, but while the Falcon is cool and amazing, it's also kinda terrible in this game. It's slow, bulky, and not very maneuverable. You don't even get a different perspective of the battles either. You play as Lando, sure, but everything you do as Wedge, you have to do as Lando with some slight changes like aiming at the core rather than at the North Tower. Kind of a letdown considering this is the Millennium Falcon we're talking here, but you know what? It's not enough to taint this game. Okay, so I've gone over the main missions, but what about those secret missions? Well, I was able to fully unlock one of them, the Death Star Escape. I was able to see a couple of the other ones, but I didn't have enough points to unlock them, so I'm just gonna talk about the Death Star Escape. Han, Luke, Leia, 3PO, and R2 have escaped the Death Star, and now it's time to fight off the TIEs with the Falcon's turrets. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of turret sections in Star Wars games. I dreaded them in Knights of the Old Republic. I hated them in Shadows of the Empire. In Jedi Outcast, it was a mini-game you didn't need to play, but I did anyways.
That's one less fighter to worry about.
Wait a minute, you mean this is a turret section of a Star Wars game that I don't hate? I am shocked. This one's actually kind of fun and pretty simple. Shoot down enough TIEs to escape. During the level, you get some dialogue from A New Hope while you shoot down TIEs, which I'm pretty sure is re-recorded and not clips from the movie, but it's still pretty solid. Now, I'm not the greatest at this, but I still had fun with this level. And to top it all off, it's not necessary to beat the game. I can play it if I want. So that was Star Wars Rogue Leader, or Rogue Squadron 2 if you prefer. So, how good is it? The game controls are fine enough and easy to figure out. The only major complaint I had was holding down the Y button for the targeting computer, but I don't use it that much anyway. 4.5 out of 5. These are solid controls. Appearance-wise, this game looks great. It's nice to look at, it looks like Star Wars, and the graphics are pretty good and an improvement over the N64. The ships look good and everything's easy to use. I'm not a huge fan of cockpit mode, but I just don't use it. And the user interface is pretty good too. The maps are easy enough to read, although the height markers sometimes confuse me. Still, 5 out of 5. Difficulty-wise, this game is challenging but easy enough to pick up. Some missions are a little hard, but the dialogue will give you hints on what you need to do. Getting gold on every mission is extremely challenging, but bronze and silver are thoroughly doable. The downside is that you still need to work towards some gold medals to unlock secret missions, but that also gives you something to work towards. 4 out of 5. It's a very balanced game when it comes to difficulty. Do you need a walkthrough? Kinda? Sure, you can complete missions without having to refer to a walkthrough, but if you're starting to aim for medals, you might want to look online for the best strategies. There are also little upgrades you can find in the missions which aren't obvious, so you may need to look those up as well. 4 out of 5. The replayability for this game is very high, even after beating the main story. You're encouraged to go back and aim for better medals and break your records, whether for personal satisfaction or to unlock stuff like ships or missions. 5 out of 5. That leaves the game with 22.5 points out of 25, or 90%. This game is definitely top tier Star Wars gaming. I'm not the greatest at flight sims, but I would rank this among the top Star Wars games. For a game this good and this popular, it should have a re-release, whether on current generation consoles or computers. But for right now, it's only available on the Nintendo GameCube. With other Star Wars games getting re-releases, I can't see why this one has been ignored for so long. If you can get your hands on a GameCube and a copy of this game, I would say definitely add this one to your collection. So what do you think? Have you played Rogue Leader? What did you think of it? How does it compare to the other Rogue Squadron games? Would you like to see me tackle more console games on my channel? As always, thanks for watching my video. Give this video a like, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, tell your friends. Until next time,
I don't know. Fly casual.